Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories. At least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello. It's been a couple of days. We had some major audio issues last week here, my last show. So we did not even release it as a podcast. I mean, it was horrible. So, very busy, finishing up one project, starting another project here with us. How do you like the background? We're at our northern command in the middle of the woods. Yes, those are real logs. Oh, there. Those are real logs. And you like our background? A little bit of a different background. We have, for you people on video, we have Safety or Death. Safety Wars, a takeoff on the old Gadsden flag. Meaning that it is the 250th anniversary of our country here. Right? 1776, 2026. We had a little program last month with that. Now, what are we talking about tonight? News. Tomorrow will be, other than safety news, we'll go into current events and some other things. A lot of stuff going on, a lot to be said. But I'm going to say this much. We are... What's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes we're victims of our own success in our society. With that. And people are forgetting how things used to be, and the people who were around when things used to be the other way are not speaking up. And that's where we're going to start with, speaking up today on today's show. So let's okay. Now, yeah, basically speaking up with that. Let me see. Well, let's do this. We're going to do FSN radio
from
news, get that over
news
with,
in Washington,
and we will
U.S. President
go from
Donald
there,
Trump.
and we'll come back with our
From
commentary.
Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. U.S. President Donald Trump says there are...
Start that over again.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper.
A little rusty
U.S.
here.
President Donald Trump says there are no talks or conversations underway or scheduled with Iran, just one day after saying his administration had established a back channel with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. A temporary framework aimed at ending the US-Iran war expired on Monday, with no indication either side will extend the agreement. Iran has denied any negotiations were taking place and says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until Washington meets its commitments. A landmark trial is getting underway in the United States, with Meta accused of harming children's mental health. The trial centers around social media addiction and whether its platforms, Facebook and Instagram, hook young people and teenagers. If found liable, Meta could face damages of up to $1.4 trillion. Ukraine has launched more than 620 drones at the Moscow region overnight in what Russian officials have described as the largest attack on the capital in 2 years. Meanwhile, Moscow says it's begun building a nuclear power plant in Myanmar as the two countries seek to deepen economic ties after Russia has faced multiple years of extensive sanctions from the West over its war in Ukraine. FSN's Dasha Chernashova reports from Moscow.
The Kremlin has said that there will be a series of documents signed after the negotiations are held at the Kremlin, and we understand those documents will be in different spheres where the two countries are eyeing deeper cooperation. Primarily, this is the area of trade, economic cooperation, as well as investment, energy, transport infrastructure, construction, and there has been a meeting with the Prime Minister of Russia, Mikhail Mishustin, that took place earlier in the day. The Russians are saying they are willing to continue to deepen relationship with any country that is seeking equal partnership with Moscow.
Pakistan's Supreme Court has ordered former Prime Minister Imran Khan transferred from prison to a hospital in Islamabad for medical treatment. It's the court's first direct intervention over the jailed leader's health. He's been behind bars now for more than 3 years, serving sentences totalling more than 30 years on corruption charges. Ever since Hira Mustafa reports from Islamabad.
This is a very significant development given how Pakistan is going through extraordinary times in terms of political divide in the country that has created political unrest that we have witnessed over the past few years. So in that context, it's a very significant development. It is also for the very first time that the country's top court has directly intervened over the medical treatment of the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan, urging the relevant authorities to move him from jail to the private hospital.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking again today at what happens if the war in Iran does not end. The Memorandum of Understanding signed 2 months ago by the US and Iran has now expired without any movement towards the full-scale peace negotiation that it envisaged. Alison Miner, former National Security Council Director for Arabian Peninsula Affairs, says the world now needs to brace for prolonged economic dislocation.
I think it means the Strait of Hormuz being compromised for the foreseeable future. I think that water always finds a way to flow, and we will see potentially more traffic through the strait, but not a full pre-war level. I think that the prospects for a negotiated settlement that is blessed by Tehran, that is blessed by Washington and the international community, is appearing increasingly unlikely. And I think the Gulf solution will be to diversify as much as possible. So there's no single industry that is resilient against continued disruptions from Iran, whether it be attacks on the Gulf or disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. And I think the unfortunate thing about warfare today is that it doesn't take a catastrophic attack with advanced weapons to have those consequences.
She spoke to Foreign Policy magazine, reflecting the absence of any international optimism about the Strait of Hormuz being reopened anytime soon. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, US President Donald Trump says there are no talks or conversations underway or scheduled with Iran. A major landmark trial is getting underway in the United States, with Meta's platforms, Facebook and Instagram, accused of harming children's mental health. And Ukraine has launched more than 620 drones at the Moscow region, the largest attack on the capital in 2 years. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
And thank you very much, Nick Harper there. With that, and so what else is there to say? Let me open this up. Victims of our own success. We're talking about the political and societal situation during the opening here, but victims of our own success also as safety professionals. Oh, what do you mean, Jim? What do you mean? We have here. How could I say this? Okay, well, I'm going to say this non-politically correct, I guess. We have systems, we have programs, we have regulations, we have industry standards, we have all different types of things to help us manage safety. And it's been said in some industries, like the oil industry, the natural oil industry especially, that some workers will go through their entire career without ever seeing a fatality, without ever seeing a catastrophic incident there. Never say never, because things happen, right? Accidents. Like I previously said, you're better off with a deck of tarot cards sometimes if you're going to predict injuries and accident rates. Well, actually, the next incident and accident that you're going to have. And often we're also a victim of other safety professionals not managing people correctly. Now, I'm not one for victimhood mentality. I don't know how else to say it. Their expectations, I guess. So recently there was a project that I'm managing, right? Safety Wars is managing, and someone came up with something very inappropriate during one of the safety meetings, one of the safety trainings. And the person is a little bit of a bully, okay? A little bit of rough and, rough around the edges. No, maybe bully is too hard of a harsh a word. And then what do you say? Dude, you got to handle it right then and there. These people do not deal with paper. They don't deal with electronic communications. They'll undermine you, and it's right there. Right there. It has to be handled right there. We handled it right then and there with what he was said. And how do we handle that? We take it direct on. Because if you go and you say, well, let's talk about this later on, his intention apparently was, well, we're going to undermine the safety person, and they're easy to undermine because no one ever says anything. I guess that's my point. No one else. I said that to the last safety guy, and he didn't say anything. I didn't say that to the last safety professional. She didn't say anything. This is all a bunch of baloney, blah, 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 blah. And then what happens is, and when you don't go and you don't say anything, I don't want to say confront, but manage the situation right then and there, you lost an opportunity there because they're going to continue to do it. Oh, look, they didn't handle that right or anything else. So what I'm going to suggest you do is try to identify opportunities where this is going to happen, and you have scripted things already in your head ready to say. So, for example, well, I don't like the way that we're doing this, and let's say that it's following a law, following a rule, right? Something like that. And, well, I don't like that. Well, first and foremost, I don't make the rules here. Maybe you are a safety professional that makes it. Well, look, I don't make the rules. I do not go and I do not write the standard. This is the standard that we have to meet, whether it's a legal standard, industry standard, by contract. Army Corps of Engineers work is famous for this, where everything is done by contract, right? You have to obey OSHA regulation, but also by contract. This is what our contract is. It says we will do X, Y, and Z. We have to do it. Now, a couple of years ago, I got a little bit snarky with somebody. So they did not like an NFPA standard. I will mention which one. But it's one of the ones that people contractors don't like, having to do with hot work and fire watches. And guy got on me, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. You're here, you got this going on, got that, you got to change this. And I said, I tell you what, I have a solution, I'll take care of it. No, you'll hear about it by the end of the day. So I went out and I got the copy of the NFPA standard. I got everyone's names on it. I wrote a nice letter saying that you should reduce and not make this as safe, and this is an idiotic thing. And I put his name down at the bottom. I said, look, I'll pay for postage here. I'll pay for postage. You just sign every letter here, and I'm going to just send them right on out. Right? I'll send them right. You're the one who's so passionate about this rule being unreasonable. You could go and voice it to the thing. Or how's this? I'll keep track of when that standard is going to be updated, and maybe you can join the committee to update that standard. You don't like it. Oh, that's crazy. That's loco. Is it really loco? Is it really crazy to go and force the person's hand with that? There's another, and I shared this story before. There was someone on a job who did not like me. He did not like the rules. He didn't like safety people in general, and he got used to getting his way safety-wise by intimidating people. Long before Safety Wars. Outright intimidating people, and guess what? Safety professionals are like, You think I'm going to risk life or limb for this guy? Let him do whatever he wants. I'm not risking life and limb. And it ends up that what ended up happening was, in a meeting with about 70 people, he gets up there, and I'm working for the general contractor, and he's up there. You should be arguing, and this is a stupid rule. This makes our life harder, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, this is the way it is. The rule is this. I might agree with it. I might not agree with it. But this is the rule. My job is to, on that job, we have this standard we have to meet. Well, nobody else enforces it. I said, well, that's not true, number one. Number two, no, this is what, and then he got up there screaming. I said, I tell you what, John. His name was John. I said, John, you're so passionate about this, and you're so articulate about this, and you have very valid and good arguments. And let me back up 1 minute. I knew that he was trying to get me thrown off the job, so he wanted me to go up and argue this point for him. I said, you know what? Why don't you and I go? And he was also shot, sir. I said, why don't you and I go up to the decision maker who made that policy, and I tell you, I'll take you right to his office. You can argue your point, and you can get that rule. You're so passionate. I think I can't do it, but I think you could get the rule overturned. Why don't we go over and do that, John? Guess what happened? One, he didn't go over and get it, just like the guy never signed his name on all those letters in the NFPA committee. Why it's a stupid rule, in his opinion. This guy refused to do it. I said, well, if you refuse to do it, why should I do it? So if it's not a good idea for you, and what's my point? If you're dealing with somebody like this, it has to be dealt with right then and there. You cannot go back unless you're so high up on the food chain that it's like, you know what, I'm not even going to spend my time wasting my time with you. I'm just going to throw you off the job. Very few safety professionals are in that position. I've been in that position before, and I've used things judiciously and legally, and where I'm, okay, well, look, I don't want to have to do this, but if you can't obey the rules, please, we can't have you working here, along those lines. And it's a pretty crappy situation we get ourselves into with this. But what's my point on here? My point is this. It's got to be handled right then and there. You cannot go out and delay handling these situations. You confront them dead on. Because what happens is, a lot of times, and I don't mean if you're a big executive, a hoity-toity guy with that, but the average safety person out, the safety professional doing the field work, doing the heavy lifting here, whose job it is to do this, and of course the decision makers, and they're like Fauci, they never get held accountable, right? And the other decision makers never get held accountable, like during COVID. You're out there often alone, and you have to, you don't want to walk away and say, you know what, I should have said X, Y, and Z. That's why I'm always for it. My wife, Mrs. Polzel, is always saying, you have to script things. You have to script things out. If not only in your head or have an outline, how am I going to say that? So here's another point, and we're talking about AI a lot on these shows. AI is another point out there. Well, what do you mean? So AI makes it very easy to come up with ideas and letters and everything else, especially with that, right? And what we're losing is our ability to think on our feet. Right? With that, AI used judiciously, is a great tool, but you can't rely on that if you're going to be dealing one-on-one with a person. I read a statistic today, Gen Z. They can go days the adults in Gen Z in that generation without ever talking to another person or dealing with another person one-on-one. And that's what comes down to our whole thing. Dealing with people, learning how to deal with people, dealing with people one-on-one, handling things right then and there, handling things in a timely manner. Sometimes you're going to be in a situation, look, I cannot deal with this right now. I've done this. I think we will. I cannot deal with this right now. We're going to go and we're going to deal with this in a meeting afterwards. And then the person comes back and says, oh, no, we want to deal with it now. And it's like, okay, you want to deal with in front of all these people? Do you really want to deal with this? And then usually they'll back down. But there are different types of techniques to de-escalate these things. Not all about confrontation. It's not all about getting easy. It's not all about making someone look like a fool with that. And again, we're a victim sometimes because we get things that don't get followed up on by other safety professionals. Other safety professionals get easily intimidated. And then all of a sudden, with people with a little bit of backbone, which I hope all of you have, all of a sudden we get, a safety person never said that to me, or no one's ever said that to you. And I corrected once. I said, a safety professional has never said that to you, has never explained to you why you should wear fall protection, has never explained to you that tying up to a conduit is not the same as tying off with fall protection to an anchorage point capable of holding 5,000 pounds. With that. And usually, I'm going to tell you, if you have to confront someone with that, they're going to back down. Now, I prefer the peaceful way of dealing with people. Friendly. Trying to get along, trying to win them over on their side. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later this week on leadership. How do you be a good leader? How do you, again, some people, I told this story here a couple of years ago of a guy who was in a building that was on fire. And I go to evacuate the building, pull the fire alarm. I go, where's I'll call him Frank. Hey, where's Frank? Well, Frank's upstairs. I go up there. Hey, the building's on fire. I don't listen to safety people. You're not going to be able to deal with someone like that. So that's what I got. A little bit rambling on and on as usual, but this is Safety Wars. We're all over the place. What else is new? And what I'm telling you is rock the safety vote.
Strapped tight, ain't no joke. Got to hold steady, can't let it choke. Don't rock the safety boat. Keep it smooth, keep it afloat. Dance on that, but don't provoke. Don't rock the safety boat. Don't rock the safety boat.
And don't rock the safety boat. Check out Todd Conklin's last two episodes here on the pre-accident investigation. I tell you what, you're going to get very well enlightened with those episodes. So here we have, boom. All right. Okay. This is where we fouled up last time with this. So we're going to repeat some of those. If you're listening on Safety FM, you heard some of this already. U.S. Department of Labor proposes $3.5 million in fines for dangerous health and safety violations by 3 employers during a Houston facility chemical response. We covered this story when it first happened. The U.S. Department of Labor has proposed more than $3.5 million in fines against 3 companies after federal inspectors determined they failed to protect workers during post-emergency response cleanup after a chemical spill at the BW Terminals industrial facility in Channelview. So, so here we had, they had a spill, 3 inspections, multiple employee, because of a sulfuric acid spill. Let's remember, sulfuric acid, H2SO4, is probably one of the most common industrial acids out there. It's used as a catalyst and a cleaner in some cases. It's also a byproduct of oil refining here. So sulfuric acid, very, very ubiquitous in our society. So this is one you want to take a look at here. Despite having full knowledge of the severe hazards involved in the spill and cleanup response, these 3 employers chose to bypass OSHA requirements and put their workers at serious risk, said David Keeling. Their joint failure to protect workers was not an oversight. It was a choice that resulted in preventable employee injuries and environmental impacts. Who will not hesitate to hold employers accountable when they ignore federal laws that are in place to protect workers' safety and health. 18 willful, egregious, and 5 serious violations. After investigations, that was from one company, found the employers sent workers to clean up the chemical spill without training, respirator fit tests, or safety measures. OSHA proposed $3 million in fines. Coastal Environmental Solutions faces, and that first company was One Way Environmental. Coastal Environmental Solutions faces $392,501 in proposed penalties for 2 willful and 5 serious violations that include a lack of training, a safety and health program, an emergency response plan for hazardous waste operations, an emergency response, that's 1910-120, and deficiencies related to use of respirators. The facility was cited with 6 serious violations for exposing workers to chemical burns, failing to provide hazmat training, and deficiencies relating to the use of respirators. OSHA proposed $82,750,000. So cumulative penalties are $3.5 million there. With that, and of course, they are in all likelihood appealing that there. Okay, this is from July 1st. Has it really been that long? U.S. Department of Labor announces nearly $13 million available in funding, right? And again, that's a little bit, well, you missed the deadline on that. Okay, this is actually a very, Harwood grants, look for them next June, roughly. All right. So, U.S. Department of Labor says a Texas contractor and staffing company after worker suffers fatal injury in elementary school crawl space. So, one of the biggest debates out there where we hear all the time, well, Jimmy, is a crawl space a confined space? And what do? I give the consultant's answer. Well, what's the consultant's answer? Maybe obey the law. Right, the department's OSHA opened up an investigation after a January 7, 2026 incident at Converse Elementary School involving D.L. Bandy Constructors employee who was removing accumulated dirt from the school's crawl space with a mini excavator and became trapped between the equipment and a concrete beam, resulting in fatal injuries. So this is one of the, I'm thinking it's either a ride-on respirator, ride-on excavator. You actually stand on it. That's what I'm thinking here is what this looks at. That's apparently what it was. The agency cited the contractor with 1 willful violation for removing the rollover protective structures from mini excavators and adding fabricated parts so the equipment could fit inside the crawl space. With that, and the company was $276,000 in penalties for the construction company, and it looks like the staffing company $23,170. Let me point out to you here with this. The staffing companies often, and it should be sorted out by contract prior to the start of work. The staffing companies feel that the contractor, or whoever they're renting people to, for lack of a better word, should be training everybody. The contractor, or the person paying the bill, feels that they should be supplying qualified people. with that. So there's always a argument here. Had right, two different points of view. So again, and dealing with lawsuits, are they confined spaces? Yeah, that's what they got cited on. Identifying and evaluating permit required confined spaces, conducting required atmospheric testing, and providing adequate ventilation and communication, and train employees, designate confined space personnel, and implement required entry and exit and rescue procedures. I mean, if you're renting, quote unquote, renting people, you had better go out there and figure out what the hell is going on. Unfortunately, what happens, in my experience, you got folks out there that say, hey, I know where if we could hire the right construction workers, we could go, or workers, we could supply them, blah, 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 and let them handle everything as far as OSHA is concerned and everything. We only have to worry about workers' comp. Not the way it works, folks. Now, with OSHA regulations, what happens is every contractor there, you have a multi-employee job site, so you have, or multi-employer job site, so you each have a role on there to play. New York-based automotive supplier agrees to pay $174,000 to settle safety violations and protect workers after a federal investigation. This is from Norwich, New York. U.S. Department of Labor has entered into a settlement agreement with auto service provider Monroe, requiring it to pay $174,000 in penalties to resolve 7 safety violations found at its Norwich facility in July 2025. The department's OSHA cited Monroe after inspectors identified multiple safety hazards. Workers exposed to slip, trips, and fall hazards. That's regular, right? Housekeeping from engine oil and transmission fluid spilled on a storage room floor, and from the accumulation of commercial trash, including tires and an exterior storage area. Investigators also found oily rags were allowed to pile up instead of being stored in a covered metal container. Right? We have the whole thing of spontaneous combustion is not so spontaneous with that. Employees performing battery maintenance lacked a suitable nearby eyewash station, and damaged outlets and electrical conduits created electrical hazards. There was also one repeated violation to a crushing hazard after finding a 4-post rotary lift with a broken safety latch cable that had been held in place with a pair of vice grips. With that, so let's talk about this here. What is spontaneous combustion? My understanding, if I'm going through memory here, is that everything oxidizes. And an oxidation reaction, it's exothermic, it generates a little bit of heat. So oil and rags, right, they give you 2 things. They give you fuel from the oil and rags, which is an insulator. So that oil oxidizes a little bit at a time. The rags are an insulator, and when you reach a critical temperature, you have spontaneous combustion. Real simple. So if you have to learn to manage your waste correctly here and fix things when they're broken. This is from July 15th. The U.S. Department of Labor cites big rig parts distributor for confined space safety hazards after worker fatality at the company's Corpus Christi facility. The U.S. Department of Labor cited big rig parts distributor Fleet Pride for 16 serious safety violations after an investigation into a worker fatality found the company exposed workers to confined space and other safety hazards. The department's OSHA initiated an inspection on January 7th. They were very busy on January 7th. After an employee asphyxiated while inspecting a tanker truck. OSHA cited the company for 16 serious and 3 other than serious safety violations, which include failure to implement a confined space program, lacking elements for its respiratory protection program, exposing workers to electrical hazards. OSHA has proposed $264,000 plus in violations. Again, now we have the AI program, right, on Spotify, AI music album on Spotify, 2 of the songs had to deal with confined spaces there, and it's an issue. Again, I'm going to tell you this person probably did this dozens, if not hundreds of times, where people have done that at that facility. That's not we're just this one time, we're not going to do that. Again, get out from behind the desk, actually go out there and see what's going on, and if people are not doing the right thing, make damn sure you go out there and fix things. Now, here's something else. Here, let me go back here with this. Back with this automotive service. Okay, right here, nobody got hurt here with any of these things here, right? You have subject of fall hazards, fires, everything like this. New York is one of those states where whoever's in charge, if someone gets killed or gets hurt, or is a catastrophic situation, guess what? You be on the hook. You're on the hook if you're the employer. Meaning, OSHA fines are the least of your worries. Right? Least of your worries. That could be a criminal act. And in some of the other states too, like in New Mexico, we remember the Rust situation, and several other states. I mean, they actually do prosecute this stuff. U.S. Department of Labor finds a Houston utility contractor $343,000 after a worker hospitalized following an excavation collapse at a Brazoria County worksite. Department's OSHA initiated an investigation into Lazy Construction Services following the incident, which occurred while crews were installing sewer and water pipes for a residential development in Alvin, Texas. So, the worker was hospitalized. OSHA determined that the employer failed to adequately protect the excavation, provide safe means of egress, and report the hospitalization in 24 hours as required by federal law. And it was $343,000, almost $344,000 in citations. Federal investigators cite a roofing contractor in Florida for willfully, repeatedly ignoring fall protection standards. With that, proposed $349,000 in fines. And Orchard Builders exposed workers to a 10-foot fall hazard when it failed to provide them with fall protection while they installed sheathing on sloped roof at a Rockledge worksite. Again, that was in January, and then on March 10th, they did it again. With it, I don't know, $350,000 in penalties. I think when I discussed this last time, the training and the equipment is a hell of a lot less than $349,000. This is what blows my mind. Companies are willing to pay the fine. They're willing to get involved in a lawsuit, all different litigation. They're not willing to spend the money here to prevent things. From what I know, how much money do they save by not doing this stuff? It's debatable, but I don't know what to tell you. This is actually, if you're in a shipyard, why this is important, and also, right, with this, the U.S. Department of Labor, U.S. Coast Guard signed a memorandum of understanding, also called MOU, to enhance maritime safety in Northwest Oregon. That's your 29 CFR 1915, 1917, and 1919 standards. The 5-year memorandum formalizes how the agencies share info, train personnel, and support joint inspections while maintaining the existing legal authority of both organizations. Under the agreement, the U.S. Coast Guard Sector Columbia River will designate a primary point of contact to improve case coordination and communication across divisions, host on-site engagements for its staff, OSHA staff, and participate in joint inspections. So why now with shipyards, what does this have to do? with I'll explain it to you. With that is that oftentimes the Coast Guard goes into shipyards, finds stuff, and reports it to OSHA. With that, several years ago, we explained the whole policy. Here's clicked on the link on the maritime industry. Maritime industry includes construction, repair, and scrapping of vessels, aka shipbreaking, as well as the movement of cargo and other materials. And U.S. Department of Labor cites a Maine hardwood pulp mill for more than $700,000 for exposing workers to chemical hazards. Now, OSHA investigated a fire at the wood pulp facility, right? And basically 2 employees died from exposure to hydrogen sulfide gas. So OSHA investigated this issue. Chemical fire at the facility that started after the employer released 4,400 gallons of 50% hydrogen peroxide. Remember, household hydrogen peroxide, that's H2O2, is like 1%, something like that. Very, very weak, right? And it mixed with wood pulp that had accumulated on the ground. So hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizer, which we just mentioned with spontaneous combustion. Now, it combined hydrogen peroxide mixed in with a fuel like wood pulp in this situation can cause a fire. Yeah, can cause a fire. So, Woodland Pumper received 4 pulp, willful citations for exposing workers to deadly H2S gas levels without proper alarms or breathing devices and allowing overflow wood pulp to build up in storage areas. The employer also received 8 serious citations for lack of worker training on hydrogen peroxide risks and failure to conduct medical evaluations for fit tests and for respirators. There you go. Right? You gotta do that, and neglect to label chlorine and acid lines or control hydrogen sulfide exposure risks. OSHA proposed almost $800,000 in penalties. So the employer has been cited 13 times since 2017, resulting in 13 serious and 1 other than serious citation, including an inspection started in 2017 when 14 employees were taken to the hospital after a chemical exposure in the same area covered by the current inspections. That's what I have. We're going to put on some pre-recorded stuff here with this. And I will see you, God willing, tomorrow. For Safety Wars and Safety FM, this is Jim Posel.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.